A waitress said to the billionaire, "Hi, sir, my mother had a ring just like yours." What followed next would astonish anyone. Sometimes a single conversation in a quiet diner can reopen a secret that reshapes everything you believed about family. And sometimes a simple ring becomes the key to mending old wounds and uncovering hidden truths. This is a story of loss, love, and the silent ties that hold us even when we don't recognize them yet. James Thornton sat in the corner booth of Rosie's Diner, the kind of place where the coffee stayed strong, the floor stayed sticky, and the customers were too exhausted to notice the man in the tailored coat. At 52, James was a billionaire with his name attached to hospital wings and university halls. But tonight, he was simply a man holding a lukewarm cup of coffee, trying to outrun the shadows of his past. His wife, Claire, had been gone for 3 years, a car accident that had stolen her laughter and left him wandering through a home far too big and a heart far too empty. After her passing, he traded boardrooms for long back roads, searching for comfort in places where his wealth meant nothing and people's stories felt honest. Rosie's Diner was one of those places. Tucked off a lonely highway in upstate New York, a resting spot for truckers, travelers, and locals who knew one another's histories but never spoke them aloud. James appreciated the chipped mugs, the fading wallpaper, and the slow-moving world around him. He didn't come for the food. He came for the brief moments of human connection that reminded him he wasn't the only one carrying sorrow. Across the diner, Emily wiped the counter, her apron marked with grease and her brown eyes heavy from long days. At 28, she was a veteran and a single mother. Her military years were behind her, replaced with double shifts and a toddler who called her mama with a smile worth the struggle. Her life was a balancing act, overdue bills, a leaky roof, and the ache of losing her mother to addiction years earlier. She rarely spoke about her mother, Mary, but Emily carried her memory on a silver ring hanging from a chain around her neck. Etched with a delicate ivy pattern, it was the one piece of her mother she never let go of. James noticed Emily long before she approached, not because she was striking, but because of the way she moved, like someone who had learned to keep going no matter how heavy life became. When she came to refill his coffee, her voice was soft, yet steady. "Hi, sir. My mother had a ring just like yours. She said it came from someone special." Her words were casual, but to James they felt like a blow. His fingers tightened around the mug. The ring had belonged to Claire, a twin to the one he'd gifted her when they were young, long before fortune and tragedy altered their lives. A simple band with ivy engravings, symbolizing a love they vowed would endure anything. "What did you say?" James asked quietly. Emily paused, sensing the shift. "Your ring," she repeated, touching the chain where her own ring rested. "My mom wore one just like it. She said it came from someone special." James felt his heart race. The matching ring, the ivy pattern, the familiarity was too precise to dismiss. "Your mother," he asked gently. "What was her name?" "Mary," she answered. "Mary Harper." The name hit him like a knife. Mary Harper, Claire's childhood friend, the girl who had grown up beside them, the one who drifted away as addiction took over her life. He hadn't thought of her in years, but hearing her name pulled him back to a past he thought he'd buried. That night, James barely slept. He sat on the edge of his hotel bed, the ring heavy on his finger, as he replayed memories of Claire and Mary, two girls inseparable once, their laughter echoing through summers in their small town. Mary had been vibrant, generous, and full of life before hardship swallowed her. James remembered the last time he saw her, at his and Claire's wedding. She'd given Claire a small box containing a ring identical to hers, a symbol of their bond. But afterward, Mary's life unraveled. Claire tried to help, money, rehab, endless calls, but addiction always dragged Mary back. Eventually, she disappeared. Claire felt guilty. James locked that pain away with her death. Emily's comment had reopened everything. The next evening, James returned to Rosie's, unsure why, only that he needed to understand. Emily Emily greeted him with a small smile, though questions lingered in her eyes. "That ring," he said. "I've been thinking about it." She touched the chain again. "It's all I have left of her. She wasn't perfect, but she was my mom." "Tell me about her." She sat during a quiet moment and shared her story. Mary's singing, her attempts at sobriety, her relapses, and the day Emily, at 16, came home to find her mother gone, leaving only the ring and a note saying, "I'm sorry. Keep this safe." Emily had survived alone since then, joining the army, returning home with a daughter, and working tirelessly to build a life. James listened, his heart aching. In Emily's strength, he saw pieces of Claire. But something else gnawed at him. The ring was not a coincidence. Over the next week, James returned daily. Their conversations deepened. He told her about Claire, about his grief, about the life he'd lost. Emily shared stories of her daughter Lily, a 3-year-old with bright eyes and a loud giggle. But the timeline haunted him. One night, when the diner had emptied, he finally asked, "When was your mother born?" 1968. Why? The math didn't fit. Emily was born in 1997. Claire and James had married in 1995. Mary had been in and out of their lives then. Another memory surfaced. Claire crying after a late-night call from Mary, saying she had failed her, but refusing to explain. "Emily," he asked softly, "did your mother ever talk about Claire Thornton?" "Claire? Yeah, she said they grew up like sisters. She always sounded sad when she mentioned her." James' hands trembled as he showed her a photo of Claire, young and radiant. "That's her," Emily breathed. "That's the Claire Mom talked about." But the puzzle still didn't fit. He hired a private investigator. Days later, the truth came back in a thin folder. Emily's birth certificate listed a father's name James didn't recognize, but tucked in county records was a letter Mary wrote to Claire in 1996. "I'm pregnant. It's his. I can't tell him. He's married to you now. I'm sorry." The world seemed to tilt. Emily was his daughter. James didn't return to the diner the next day, or the next. He paced his hotel room, the ring in his hand, anger and heartbreak twisting inside him. Claire had known. Mary had hidden it, and Emily had grown up without a father because of choices made in silence. When he finally returned, the diner was nearly empty. Emily looked worried. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Emily, we need to talk." He told her everything. The letter, the truth, her father. Emily cried silently, but her voice stayed calm. "You're saying, you're my father?" James nodded. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Emily stood and walked out. He didn't follow. Weeks passed. She didn't quit, but she kept her distance, though James returned every day, waiting without pushing. One snowy evening, Emily finally approached him. She held out the chain with her mother's ring. "I've been thinking," she said, "about Mom, about Claire, about you. I'm angry, but I don't want to stay angry." James exhaled. "What do you want, Emily?" "I want to know you. Not the billionaire, just you. And I want you to know Lily. She deserves a grandfather." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was hope. Over the next months, James and Emily built something new. He met Lily, a burst of laughter and curls. He saw Claire in her smile, Mary in her eyes. He helped Emily with bills because he was her father, not her benefactor. She let her walls lower slowly. He funded a community center in Mary's name, a place for people fighting addiction. Emily began night classes, dreaming beyond the diner. A year later, James sat at Rosie's with Emily across from him and Lily coloring happily on her lap. The rings, his and Emily's, still glinted, symbols of pain that had somehow mended into something whole. The diner was the same, but they were different, bound by a truth that nearly shattered them, but instead gave them a family. As the jukebox hummed softly, James felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. This is what Claire would have wanted. Not a life filled with regret, but one rebuilt with love and second chances. And as the jukebox hummed softly, James knew he was finally home.